welcome to the Money Show with Ms.Clo, the podcast that's all about mastering your money, building strong business credit, business fundability, and unlocking the doors to financial success. I'm your host, Ms.Clo, and I'm here to guide you through the ins and the outs of business finances, give you some credit tips, a few strategies on how to grow your business like never before. And whether you're just starting out on this journey or you're looking at taking your business to the next level, this is the show that's going to keep you money mindset sharp and your goals within reach. So, we're going to go ahead and get started on our journey to financial empowerment. And today I have a guest, someone I'm excited to have with us to talk about her businesses. And we're going to talk about, some of the things that she has encountered along her journey. And also, we'll see, how that fans as we talk about business funding and some of those things that may be a part of what she has to do also. So I would like to introduce to you Dr. Lenora Coleman. And I'm going to ask Dr. Coleman to tell you about herself so I don't have to steal her thunder.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me come on today, right? I've always liked to do these podcasts because it goes out to a lot of people so that they can kind of hear it from the folks that are doing whatever it is day to day. I'm a pharmacist by training. I have been a pharmacist for over 45 years. I hail from California, and I've been here in Georgia about 12 years. I started my nonprofit in 2001. So I have a nonprofit called Total Lifestyle Change. And then I started my for-profit business, which is called Healing Our Village. And that happened in about 2009. So I've been doing this a long time, all over the country. My nonprofit, Total Lifestyle Change, does health outreach and screenings, advocacy, mainly for minority populations, African Americans, Latinos. Healing Our Village is now a clinic that's right here in Jonesboro, Georgia, where we're focused on seniors and we're focused on veterans. And we're trying to help those, especially ones that have diabetes and have hypertension. Right now, for African Americans, hypertension is the leading cause of death for many, many African Americans throughout the world. And so for me, I just would like to actually stop hypertension because it can be stopped.
Yes.
But it certainly can be treated. And so my two organizations sort of work hand in hand to be able to reach out to churches, community-based organizations, hospitals, clinics. And so we're able to do all of that for our community.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. By trade, you were a pharmacist.
Yes, by trade.
So was that something that led you to see a need, or why did you, of all the things that you could have done, why
the business?
Why the businesses?
My pastor actually, back in 1996, died of sudden death in the pulpit.
Wow.
So I was at that point working for Bayer Pharmaceuticals as a science liaison for them. I wasn't there at the church service. So I came back the next Sunday and I was writing out my envelope. And the pastor that was in the pulpit said the viewing for Pastor Henry will be today at 3 o'clock. And so I leaned over to the lady next to me and I said, "Did Pastor Henry die?" And she said, "Yeah, he dropped dead in the pulpit, 6 o'clock service from a heart attack." And I was very close to the pastor. And that really just touched me. And so on that Sunday, I decided to devote the rest of my career to trying to heal the village and to try to stop African Americans predominantly, men especially, stop dying from heart attacks and strokes, dying before they get to their 70, before they get to their 70 years, dying prematurely.
Okay.
And so I basically quit my 6-figure job, gave them back the company car, and moved to DC and started healing the village.
Okay, that's a great testimony right there within itself. So tell me this: when you say how long you've been here in the Atlanta area?
About 12 years.
Okay, yeah. And are you for profit or not profit? What kind of business do you have?
Yeah, so I have both.
Oh,
So I have Healing Village is a for-profit. It is what they call a minority business entity, an MBE,
okay.
which is a special designation for minority companies. And if you have to go through an application process. Every state you have to apply at the state that you're in. And you have to give them your taxes and all of that kind of thing. But once you've passed, you have to be minority owned, right? So it's a minority business entity, right? So you have to be a woman or Latino or African American, Asian. And if you pass their application process, it gives you special contracting ability because many businesses have in their charter that they have to do businesses with minority entities.
Okay.
So there's some tax incentive for doing businesses with MBEs, especially if you're doing state government funded programs or federal funded programs. It gives you sort of an edge.
Okay.
So I also have my nonprofit. It started in 2001. It's called Total Lifestyle Change. It's 5013C. And it basically does health screening and advocacy and education. So that's how I get the grant dollars. See, so there's your for-profit, and then there's your nonprofit. And the nonprofit is able to apply to the federal government, state government, philanthropic organizations in order to bring in grant dollars.
Okay, I get a lot of questions because I am in the business of assisting entrepreneurs with getting funding loans. And the very first question a lot of people ask me is, do I do grants? So the answer to that question is that I don't do grants, but I do understand that grants do serve a purpose in the funding process, and primarily nonprofits, but a for-profit could also get a grant, but nonprofits usually benefit initially from getting grants.
Right.
So that's important for people, to understand. You also said something else about the Minority Business Enterprise certification that you got.
Yes.
So when I ask businesses, do you have all of the licenses that you need? While that is not necessarily a requirement, but there is a benefit, and you talked about the benefit of being able to get certain contracting opportunities,
Right.
and the fact that it is a target audience that you are going after the minority uh, population more
Right.
so. But again, you can have a nonprofit and you can have a for-profit, and they can work hand in hand.
Right.
One does one thing that supports the other.
Right.
So that's why I like to say, yes, if you have a nonprofit, you can also have a for-profit, so that you can do all of the things that that is a part of the vision that you have.
Right.
So when you first started this, did you start on your own? Were you by yourself? Did you have other people to help you, or how did you get started?
Yeah. I kind of did this on my own. I did get, some advice from some of the, because I know a lot of doctors, and doctors have their own clinics, most of them, their own private practices. So I had some mentors along the way. I recommend that your audience find people that can mentor them, because this is not hard. This is not easy. But trying to open a business is hard. So you have to have either have gone to school, right, and gotten an MBA or some kind of business degree, so you actually understand business, or you need to be mentored by someone who understands business. One of the things that is really interesting to me is that people always tell me, "Oh, I'm going to start a business," and they have no clue. They don't even know how to spell business. That's more how to start a business. And most businesses, as you know, go out of business within 3 to 5 years of starting.
5 years.
5 years, that's the number. So there's so many people who then are dashed to the rocks because they had this wonderful idea and they were going to start their business. They were so excited, and then it failed. And the reason is because it's sort of like driving a car and you're going someplace. Well, you need a map.
Okay.
And nowadays, back in the old days, it was a map. Now it's GPS, right? You got to put it into your GPS. And that just tells you if you're going to turn left, you're going to turn right, or you're going to go straight. Okay? And so, in order to start a business, you need a map. You got to know, first of all, where you're going.
Okay.
All right? And once you get there, then what you're going to do when you get there. Right? So people think that this opening up a business is easy, but it's not easy. It's very hard. And the one thing that why I wanted to come on your show is because you're talking about capital.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that people don't understand is that to actually have a business, you need to make money. And my brother used to always say that if you're not making money at your business, then it's a hobby. It's not a business. So people tell me all the time, well, I'm in business and I do that, my first question I ask them is, well, does it pay your house note, your car note, and are you taking a salary? And they say, well, no, I'm not at the point yet where I can take a salary. Well, then it's a hobby.
I work with a lot of people, and that's how a lot of businesses start out, as being hobbies, and then we uh, show them how they can move from being a hobby to a full-fledged business, and there is a process involved. And there are a lot of people who start businesses that don't necessarily, have the degrees that we talk about, but there are certain type of businesses, such as yours, that does require that you're going to have some professional level training. But there are a lot of opportunities to start businesses. But just as you say, a lot of businesses are going to fail within the first 3 to 5 years. And right now they're saying businesses fail within the first 5 years because they don't have the necessary capital. So, with that in mind, as you have grown your business, what would you say has been your biggest financial challenge that you've had to face?
Yeah. So most of the 30 years that I've been doing these businesses, um, only recently was I able to get some substantive grants. And when I say substantive, that's a grant for $250,000 or higher. So $10,000, $50,000. You can't run a business on that. So over the last, mainly because of COVID, and mainly because of Joe Biden, which a lot of people don't know about this. Joe Biden made sure that African American businesses got funding. He made sure that they got the Rescue Act funding, that they're getting the CHIPS funding, that they for the nonprofit space around COVID, which is what I did starting when the pandemic hit in 2020. He made sure that his agencies gave that grant money to a significant number of Black-owned nonprofits, and that didn't used to happen. Okay, so that's the first thing. But most of my business years have been spent on the for-profit side. Okay, and what I usually have done on that side of the business is gotten contracts with medical centers, doctors' offices, state agencies, hospital systems. Those were the first contracts I got, and um, I've been blessed because, see, I love Jesus, and so I've had a lot of some people call it luck. I don't call it luck. I call it blessings. And I've been blessed in that I have been able to get contracts that most people didn't think I could get, or they couldn't get, right? But I was able to get them. But one thing that's important is that I was also ready to go.
Ready. You were ready.
I was ready.
Okay.
And so you, even though if you get a contract, you'll lose it if you're not ready.
That's very important, because one of the things that my company does is we are alternative lenders, and we lend when the bank says no. So, as an alternative lender, we know that you may have accounts receivables, financing need, where you got a contract. How are you going to fill the contract? Because you need to go out and buy whatever the materials are to either build a product or whatever it is that you need to do. And if you don't, as you say, you will lose that contract. You will lose that money. So there are a lot of different types of needs that people have for funding. And some are very specific. And then some have to do with just the day-to-day running of your business, keeping the doors open. Now, one of the things that you mentioned was the fact that you were able to get grants in the very beginning for your nonprofit. And that's how most nonprofits are going to actually start out, is getting a grant. Now, I do believe that I get asked that question so often because there's a lack of understanding about funding and capital, because we, for some reason, have been conditioned to believe that debt is a bad thing. But in business, debt is a good thing, because you want to be able to use other people's money so that you then can make your profit and pay back what you borrowed, and then you can turn around and do it again. So when we talk about funding, that is one of the things that we want to make sure that our audience understands, that sure, grants are out there, but when you say you have to be prepared and you have to be ready, there is a process that is involved in all of this funding and money. We have been conditioned to believe that I want to start a business, I need a loan. Now we know about SBA, but we assume that I don't have enough tax information and I don't have everything that I'm going to need. So I know I'm not going to be able to get that SBA loan right now.
Right.
Okay. Can't go to the bank because of my personal credit score. The personal credit score that has haunted us from the very first credit card we got out of high school up until today's date, whatever that date is. People can quote that credit score as though it's something magical. But the credit score, over years, you've had to do things. We have to do what we have to do, and your credit score may not be what it is, what it needs to be, or it's not what a lender is going to loan money on. So what do? We start using our own money. So one of the things that we want to help our audience to understand is that there are ways now that you can start obtaining money or funding. And let me say, when I talk about funding, not so much for what you're doing, but when you talk about funding, I'm talking about a high limit credit card, I'm talking about a line of credit, and I'm talking about loans. But we just automatically jump to the loan. We figure we can't get it all, okay? And without adequate funding in 3 to 5 years, we all know, what's gonna happen. So that's the reason that, I always like to say, what challenges have you faced as it comes to funding? And you talk about medical. Do you have equipment needs in your business? I don't know, because you say that you have the different services that you offer. You have medical services. Uh, is there a building involved? What kind of needs do you have?
Yeah. So I've always felt that if possible, it's good to have your own building, your own real estate. You should own your own home, and you should own your office if you can. So I have the building that we're in on Main Street, 177 North Main Street in Jonesboro. I own that building. So because that you're able to stretch that mortgage out over a 30-year period of time, my mortgage is very low. I only pay about $1,000 a month. But most physicians, right, and most practices are leasing space. So if you think about how much they're paying for the lease space, and somewhere it can be from $5,000 to $10,000 a month, that they're paying somebody else's mortgage. Because see, they're leasing, and that where they're leasing it from, that's that person's building, right? So I really tell entrepreneurs as much as possible to try to get yourself in a position so that you can own your space. So now when you're first starting out, you're young, you might want to do an incubator space, one of the weed works, or one of those kinds of things where it's a shared office community as you're building your business, because you need an address. You can't send people, don't think you're in business for real if you got a post office box.
We do not use post office box, people. We don't do that. A lender is, the very first thing that an underwriter is going to do. They're going to take the information that you put on an application, and they're going to go through that with a fine tooth comb. They're going to pull up the address. They're going to do, the Google map or whatever it is. Now, I said on my application that I have a trucking company. And then my address, when they do the Google search, it pulls up into a little neighborhood with little homes. And they're going to say, well, wait a minute now. I thought this was supposed to be a trucking company. They're going to say, oh, no, this must be a hobby. This must be a hobby, because you're not passing the acid test. So therefore, you may be making money already doing what it is that you do. But there are a lot of things that we're going to, talk about in this episode and those to come, that lenders look at and they will deny you because of the devil is in the details. And I will say that over and over again, because when you receive information, if you don't get the details that go along with the information, you may be doing yourself more damage than good.
Yeah.
But that's, that's very important as we talk about,
Right.
the address that you have is also as important as what it is that you do. So again, we have to paint a picture. You're going to be painting, you're creating a profile for your business. You're creating a profile, and we want to make sure that this profile is structured properly. And those are some of the things that Dr. Coleman, she's checking off all the boxes and she's telling us what it is. But I'm just trying to say, okay, that address is important. It does make a difference, and they will look it up. And if it doesn't match what you say you do, it will. They will assume that you are a hobby, and that's an automatic denial. And they don't have to look any further to see that you were making money.
That's right. The other thing that I really encourage my people, young, because I mentor a lot of young people who want to do business. One of the things I tell them is that my pastor used to say, "Oh, no man but to love you." So you need to stay out of debt, because that debt to credit ratio is what these lenders are looking at. So what that means is they're going to look at all your assets. They're going to look at how much money you're bringing in, but they're also going to look at how much debt you have. And if you're in the 40%, and this is your space, right? If you're 40% or greater, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes it hard for that lender to give you money. You also have to have an accountant or use an accounting program, and you have to do your taxes, because they're going to ask for your taxes.
Okay.
And sometimes they ask for 3 years of taxes.
Okay.
And so they look at how much money you've made and how much money you've lost, and they really want to see at least some profit if you're saying that you're in a business. So the first couple of years, they don't necessarily expect you to make a lot of profit. But that third, fourth, they're expected to see some profit.
Okay.
And they also, even though you have a company and that company might be doing well, they're still going to make you, Dr. Coleman, guarantee that loan with me. And so they're going to look at my credit score, and it needs to be up in the 700-800s. So if you're down in 500, 565, it's going to be hard for that lender to lend you money. I mean, that's just so what I try to do is I try to stay out of debt as much as I can. I'm going to, of course, have some debt, right? But these high interest credit cards right now, yeah, and they're high interest. You want to try to avoid those, I'm thinking, as much as you can. So I have a few, but I try to pay them off as quickly as I can, because they like to see you pay off your debt, right? So that's what I do. So I'm always leveraging money, trying to, get a little money, but I pay it off really quickly, that kind of thing.
Okay. It sounds as though that you are you are the perfect applicant for our traditional lenders, because you've done all of the above, and all of those things are important. And one of the things that I want to make sure that our viewers and listeners understand is that business credit and personal credit are not the same thing. They're two separate animals. So if you don't have all of the things that Dr. Coleman has talked about, you're not dead in the water. That's just the ideal position to be in. And if you do what you need to do and position yourself properly, that's where you will be. So when we start out with the end in mind. And the end is to be in that position. But of course, we're not going to all start out. No, we're not going to all start out that way. I am in the alternative lending space. And as our alternative lenders, we have different sets of criteria. Well, all lenders have criteria. What the public doesn't know, you don't know what the requirements are. You want to apply for something, you fill out the application, you get denied. You never knew that you didn't qualify. You just waited for someone to tell you and deny you. You need to know up front what lending requirements are before you actually apply, because every time that you do apply, you are pulling your credit score down. So it's important that you become aware of how to go about positioning and getting credit and using other people's money. That's why you will hear a lot now about business credit. Business credit, that is trending. You see it on social media, business credit. And that is so that you know that there are some alternatives out there. But even that, there is a process involved in getting business credit. And to give you an example of what business credit can do for you as you are starting out, I'm going to use Walmart as my example. We all shop at Wally World, okay? So Walmart uses business credit to purchase about 85 to 90% of all of the products that you see there in the store. So if they don't have to make a payment on that money that they just used, somebody else's money, for 30 days, now, how many times does that merchandise turn over in that store before they need to make a payment on it? How many times have we gone in and they were stocking and then you go back and what you need is not there? That's because they don't have to make a payment. So they are accumulating their money. And then when it's time to make the payment, they make the payment. So therefore, they understand the importance of using other people's money. And that's where we have to come in and understand how we can take advantage of that, even as a startup or a brand new business, because business credit is going to get you uh, credit cards. They don't necessarily have to be high interest rate credit cards, but you have to understand how credit cards work and know that for a certain length of time, you may get a 0% interest rate. You have to manage what you get regardless. You have to manage. So if you get a 0% interest rate for 15 months, that's almost like free money.
Right.
But what you want to do is make sure that you are able to pay off so that you don't get to month number 22 where the interest rate now jumps up to 29%. So again, there is information that if you have this information, you know how to manage your finances in such a way that you really can use other people's money to help you with the day-to-day operations. What kind of things do you need to purchase? Do you need to, I know you provide services, but do you have a need for the items in your office? Do you have a need for, uh, we talk about vendor accounts, trade lines, needing to purchase paper products and the like. Do you need to purchase those things?
So yeah, so well, I'm in the medical space, so I went from just being a complete 100% education provider to last year deciding that I was going to actually become a health care provider. So though I'm a pharmacist and I can't see patients, I own the clinic. So Healing Our Village is my group clinic, and I have doctors that work for me. So I have doctors, I have nurse practitioners, and they're able to see patients and write prescriptions. But I also have dietitians that work for me. I have diabetes educators that work for me, and we bill their services to insurance companies. So that's how my revenue comes in. All right. The issue is that I have to pay them before I get the revenue in. So that's why the service industry needs credit, right? Because
Yes.
I have to be able to pay out knowing that I'm going to get reimbursed from the government agencies that I'm billing, right?
Exactly.
Medicare, Medicaid, the private sector,
Mhm.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, those kinds of folks.
Okay.
Some patients are paying still cash and carry.
Mhm.
So we do some things that are cash and carry. Right now we're doing medical marijuana,
Okay.
and that's a cash and carry. It's now legal in Georgia.
Mhm.
So that's a cash and carry business. So people come in, they pay $125 to see the doctor for an evaluation, and then based on if they're eligible, she gives them their card. Well, the certification for them to get their card. Their
Mhm.
card actually comes from the Board of Health, and then they're able to go to a dispensary and get the medical marijuana for PTSD or chronic pain, or there's a number of different diagnoses. So a lot of times for businesses like mine, knowing that we're going to get paid on the back end, having a line of credit or some kind of way
Exactly.
of money, you have to have that. Because I have to have paper, of course. I have to have paper. I have to have gowns. I have to. I'm buying medications.
Okay.
So all of that is part of what I have to do to be a practice. But I had to outfit my office.
Okay.
So I had to buy exam tables and different kinds of things that are necessary, blood pressure cuffs.
Okay.
And then just tissues and all the stuff that you see when you walk into your doctor's office, right? So those are things I had to purchase out of pocket and weren't necessarily covered.
Okay.
Right? You can't. So the insurance company's not paying me back for gauze. They're paying me back for seeing a patient.
Okay.
So I have to have enough of a margin
Mm-hmm.
in there so that I can have the money that it takes to maintain and keep my business going, right? And still pay the doctors to do the work.
And so
and
those
still
are
make some profit.
those are some of the things that business credit is designed for. Their business credit is designed to give you that ability to get those things that you need to keep your doors open, to keep your business going until the money comes. And when you, for example, may have been awarded a grant, but it may be, 30 days before the funds are dispersed, and you still have payroll that has to be met. You still have all of these other needs that have to be met. And that's where business credit comes in, because now you can get those things that you need, and you have a way to continue to run your business while you are waiting for your profits or your income to actually come in. So that is a very good thing. So you don't necessarily have to use your own money, but that's where we start going down that rabbit hole when we don't actually have the money. We have the business, we were fortunate enough, we got everything going, and now what do I do? That's where we want to talk about what business credit does. Business credit will position you to be able to get loans. There are loans that can be for payroll. There are loans for advertising campaigns. There are different types of loans that alternative lenders will make, because we understand what it takes to run a business. Banks, we're not in competition with banks. We're not in competition, because banks serve their purpose and they're going to lend or they're not. But when they turn you down, we can help, we can tell you why you were turned down. And we can show you what you need to do, because it's all about being fundable.
Right.
It's all about being fundable. And this has nothing to do with you being the best at what you do. It has to do with how you have taken care of all of the other aspects of running a business. Because I like to ask the question, how much time do you spend in your business? And how much time do you spend on your business? So the things that Dr. Clark is talking about, Dr. Coleman, I'm sorry, is talking about, are the things that you have to do, the time that you need to spend on your business, so that you are positioned for when you actually need. And she talked about having a line of credit. Those are all the things that alternative lending can do for you, is to help you with that line of credit. So with your business being a nonprofit, what was the biggest hurdle that you had to getting the funds that you need? Was it the application process, or was it just the fact that you are a nonprofit and you needed funds as opposed to a grant? You needed something right away. What was the biggest challenge that you had to face?
So in the nonprofit world, it's highly competitive. And if I'm a small nonprofit, okay, so, but I'm competing against American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, American Cancer Association, all of those big entities. Mm-hmm. I'm also competing against universities, so Emory and Morehouse. We're also competing against hospital systems, so Grady and Emory. All right, so those folks all have nonprofit arms, and they're all trying to, even though they're making money on patient services, they still all have nonprofit arms where they're applying for the grants. So when most grantors are evaluating who they're going to give grant money to, they're probably they tend to give money to the bigger nonprofits than to the small ones, because they see us as a risk. They don't think that we necessarily have the capacity to be able to deliver the grant. So this is the rub that's been happening over the last 30 years. Those big institutions can't reach the community. So therefore, even though they may have the capacity to do the grant, because they don't have the trust of the community, they're not in the community, they're not able to deliver what they say they're going to deliver to the grantor. All right, so let's say there's a grant for stopping hypertension. All right, and that university hospital gets that grant. All right, so now they're going to look at who has hypertension, African Americans. So then the question is how are they going to get to that African American community? Because they're not here necessarily in Stockbridge, Morrow, Riverdale. Okay, these hospitals are on the north side, right? Or they're downtown Atlanta. So when they come to the community to try to get African Americans to participate in whatever program they're doing, those African Americans don't trust them, because they don't know who are these people. Whereas smaller nonprofits like myself, we tend to embed ourselves in the community, so there's more trust. They know us, they see us, and so they see us at the restaurants that we frequent together, right? So people come up to me, oh, you look familiar. I think I saw you. So this is the issue of this nonprofit. So it's been hard for me as a small nonprofit to be able to get the grants. But now, I kind of worked my way up. So I first got the $100,000 grant, then I got the $250,000 grant, then I got the $500,000 grant, and I was able to show that I can manage those funds. So now I'm in a position where I'm starting to get the $1 million grants, right? Big few and far between, not enough of those, but still to be able to do that. But you said something that I wanted to go back to. You were talking about being in your business, right? Okay, so a lot of people that I know want to run a business, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to start a company." Okay, but they're married, and they have husbands, and they have children. They have more than one child. They have 2 or 3 kids. And so it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be able to be in a business and grow that business when you have all these competing priorities, because I do my business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was a widow. I lost my husband, and when my kids were very young, and I had to try to do business and also take care of my young children. And so something's got to give. And in many respects, my kids were the ones that gave, because I wasn't around, because it's a 24/7 kind of a thing, right? So I looked at this, but because I do healthcare, that I was doing the greater good, right? And so, but my kids didn't see it that way. They didn't like the fact I was missing the football game, or missing the play, or coming late, or whatever, right? So I felt I did pretty good. I juggled pretty good, right, in my opinion. But it was a strain on me, right? So all of you entrepreneurs out there, understand that first 3 to 5 years that you're going to start this business, you have to be in it, and you have to work it, and there's not a lot of compensation for it, right?
Right.
And so you have to be ready to give up and sacrifice if you're truly going to be successful at your business. And anybody you talk to that has a business, and you ask them about that, what did that first 3 to 5 years look like?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell you.
Okay.
It was hard.
I want to double back to something you said. You said that nonprofit arena is competitive,
Very competitive.
and but at the same time, I hear opportunity.
Right.
Opportunity. So if it's competitive, and a lot of people will try to dissuade you from going into a business because they say, "Oh, there's too many people doing that." So what would you say to somebody who feels that they may have seen a space for themselves based on what you just explained to us?
Right. When people come up and say, I want to start a business doing X, and I listen to the pitch, because everybody has to have their elevator pitch, right? Mm-hmm. You have to, in a minute, tell me what it is that you do and want to do, that I get it. I can see it clearly. That's called an elevator pitch. And so they tell me that, and I think about the marketplace. I think about one of my mentors always used to tell me that you want to be in blue waters as opposed to red waters.
Now, what's blue waters and red waters?
Okay, so red waters is red because there's so much blood. Okay, and that's because of all the barracudas and the sharks and all of them folks that competitive that are out there in this world. And so that red water is bloody, but you want to try to be as much as you can in blue waters, which means you've come up with something, a product or an idea or a service where there's not a whole lot of people in that space. So the water is not so bloody, it's blue. Now, there could be a few people there, and that's okay, because you always want people to say, "Oh, so you're like Healing Our Village." So I don't mind competition, but you try to, if you can't be first out or close to first out, or have an innovation that another person didn't think of. So then when you're pitching and I'm pitching, and we go into this for the same money, they can see that I have something that is on the cutting edge. I have something that's innovative. I have something that sets me apart, which will increase my chance for success in that particular space that I'm in, whatever it is, right? And the other thing, not only does it have to be innovative and something that can, but it has to be able to grow. There's a lot of people who have ideas and the business is good, but they get to a certain point and they can't take it to the next stage. And that's where you guys come in.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's because of lack of capital
Mhm.
that you can't go from this right here to the next step.
Exactly.
Right? So that's why capital, and especially alternative capital funding sources, are so important.
They're very important because, again, I keep saying we're not in competition with the bank, and that's what I want everyone to understand. We are there, and you might think, well, where do people get? How does everybody else get their funding? And you might not even been aware that alternative lenders even exist. But yes, they do exist, and they are there, and they loan for reasons that the banks don't. And when you are talking about alternative lending, and you may realize that I need $100,000, it's just a number I pulled out of my hat. And you got to say, I'm going to put so much over here. If I get it, I'm going to put so much over there. And you got to figure out how you're going to spread that money. Alternative lenders function a little bit differently, and they're more specific. So that it may be that I need some to purchase some equipment. I need money for inventory. There are loans that do those specific things, and you may end up getting them to stack what we call stacking loans, where you may get a loan for one thing, you get a different loan for another. There was a different lender, and we know the criteria for all of those. And where we say we start with the end in mind, we can tell you before you ever apply whether or not you're going to get approved. Because the thing is, you want automatic approval.
Right.
And while you are running your business on a day to day basis, you are positioning your business for what the business is going to need. And you're going to use your EIN so that you are not always having to guarantee with your personal assets. That's very important because, as you mentioned, when you have all of these different family requirements pulling against you and the money and this, that, and the other, and you're using your personal resources, you're taking money from the family, that is going to be something that is draining. And if we talk about the lack of capital, we just want to draw a line in the sand and keep your personal assets on one side and show you how to build the business using your EIN and build the business profile that you need so that you can go out and get whatever it is. You can get vehicles for your business without having to put up your own, personal resources on the other side. So that's very, very, very important. So, is there anything else that you think that we might need to share with someone? Oh, here's one. Should a nonprofit be afraid of debt? Should they be afraid of? I hear people continuously are looking for a grant, continuously looking for a grant. They're very fixated on looking for a grant for working capital. And maybe they are just not aware that there are other alternatives. So, what would you say to them?
So nonprofits are definitely different than for-profit. And nonprofits, when you look at, they call me, like whenever I submit a grant, I have to submit my operating budget. So what I just found out just a couple weeks ago, one of the grantors that I applied to told me that when I submitted my operating budget, she expected my operating budget to be, um, well, the grant was for $300,000. She just said she expected my operating budget to be $100,000. So it should be a third of whatever grant amount I was trying to get. And I'd never heard anybody say that in that way. And so I learned something. So as you guys are out here applying for grants, keep that in mind. Whatever the dollar figure of that grant is, they expect your operating budget to be a third of it. So if you're applying for a $300,000 grant, but your operating budget is $200,000, they're probably not going to give you the grant. Okay. The way that nonprofits make money is through grants, but as again, the grants are hard to get. So you need to do donations and you need to do fundraising. So most of the nonprofits out there are making money from donations in fundraisers. And right now, this is giving season. This is, October, November, December, October. That's when you're starting to get the emails saying donate.
Okay.
And so right now I have donations that I'm seeking. And I'm also doing a fundraiser.
Tell us about your fundraiser.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I've done these over the years. They're hard to do, right? It's hard to figure out a good cause that pulls on people's heartstrings enough that they will open up their wallets. And it depends on the economic times that we're in, right? Of course, you can imagine 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that this economy was just a mess. Everything was at a standstill. So there were very little people donating funding. But now things are kind of loosened up a little bit. And on December the 15th, which is Sunday, we are doing a fundraiser, concert, and resource fair for veterans. And I'm raising money for homelessness. So I've decided that I am tired of seeing people with black plastic bags and shopping carts with all of their worldly belongings in that black plastic bag. And that we have got to figure out how to get these folks off the street, especially the veterans, because they have given their lives for us, and we need to do better for them. So on the Sunday, December the 15th, at the Clayton Performing Arts Center here in Jonesboro, we will have Kiki White, we will have Chuck Rock, and we will have Keith Dobbins. All three are different. So Chubb is old school hip hop, Kiki is R&B, Keith Dobbins is gospel. We'll have some comedians and we'll have some other entertainment that comes in there to raise money so I can buy my first piece of land free and clear so I can stand up what I'm calling veterans villages. So there will be villages. And on these villages will be container houses, tiny houses. There will be a clinic for health care. There will be a food pantry to help people eat. And there'll be a training center. So we can train these people who live there. This is transitional. For 2 years, they transition through this housing. They will be trained to be able to become phlebotomists and medical technicians and pharmacy technicians, but also welding and electrical and carpentry, so that they can then go out and get jobs in these trades, either the health profession trades or the building trade. And then we'll bring in the next person into that transitional housing. So I'm very excited about these villages. I think they're going to be very beneficial. We have a brand new website called Vets Moving Up. And if you go to that website, vetsmovingup.com, you'll see there's assistance for housing, for claims, for medical care, for behavioral health care. List all the VFWs and American Legions. But we're also going to have some life coaches on there, right? Or even some folks that do financial counseling. So that we're going to have all of these resources on there for veterans throughout the state of Georgia. So I've created this statewide resource website. And this fundraiser is going to help support that as well, right?
Okay.
So I really encourage your listening audience to help us, to donate, to buy a ticket. Tickets are on Eventbrite, but it's also on the website. Tickets are $80, and the proceeds are going to go toward these services for not only veterans but for seniors as well.
Okay, that's great. It sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that as many people that are able to support do support and know how to get in contact with you after this, so that they can participate, or maybe even ask some questions if there's somebody out there. You say that you do a little mentorship.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there that is interested in maybe getting a nonprofit, but you see how far you can take it, because we started out talking about how you got started and how you got your business up and running and the certification that you got, and then you went out and you started getting grants and so on, and now because of you managing all of your resources the way that they're supposed to be managed, you're moving to the next level and the next level. So this is a process. This is a process. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the faint of heart, because like you say, 24/7, this is what we do. This is how we think. Even in our sleep, this is how we think.
Yeah.
So again, I believe that there is a lot more opportunity for people who want to get into nonprofit, but it's important to understand that nonprofit and for-profit, there is a certain aspect of running a business. It does not matter whether it's a for-profit or if it's a nonprofit. There are certain things that you have to do in order for your business, whatever that is, to be successful.
Right.
You need capital. When the bank says no, we can assist you. Orchard Business Funding and Advisors. That's what we exist for, to be able to help you become successful as you are doing generational wealth. You want to leave something for your family, and it's all about not draining your family resources while you're trying to do that.
Exactly.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share? I see we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes,
We've
yes.
covered a
Well, I
lot of
just
ground.
love you all to go to the websites, healingourvillage.com. That's my for-profit website. TLC-Global. TLC stands for Total Lifestyle Change. So TLC-Global.org is my nonprofit website. The donations are coming off of Vets Moving Up, which is my new veterans website. I have an 800 number, 800 788 0941. So it's 800 788 0941. And, we need volunteers. We need people to help us in the community. And so, one of the things I guess as a closing statement is that I, I, uh, I love what I do, and I don't think of it as work. And that's the upside for being an entrepreneur and following your passions, is that there's a lot of benefit for you both spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Being able to be your own boss and being able to create something from nothing. And so I encourage people who see themselves in that position to go for it. But understand, you also need to have a little education, and don't be afraid of school, because the more you know, the better you do.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that information. And I hope that everyone who tuned in was able to get some value in the discussion that we've had today. And again, this podcast is all about mastering your money and building strong business credit so that you can go out and have your business become fundable, so that you can unlock the doors to the financial success that you are looking for you and your family and for the generations to come. So I want you to always be sure to tune in to our show, The Money Show with Ms.Clo, so that we can talk a little bit more about other businesses and some of the challenges that they have faced. You may find that it's familiar to you. And of course, you can always reach out to us if you want additional information. So I want to thank everybody. And until next time, I'm Ms.Clo, and thanks for tuning in to The Money Show with Ms.Clo.